show that focuses on our issues, our concern, our stories, our voices, and our perspectives.
It's less than 20 people. So everybody want to scream on social media about how Black Lives Matter, but nobody want to do shit.
And when you only report one side of the story, that's not reporting.
Right.
And that happens way too much in with our major media establishments in this town. It's like,
welcome to Unbossed Nightly News, a special edition streaming live on Unbossed Columbus. I'm Devontae Goins, and today is Thursday, February 17th, 2023. Sorry for the pause there, everybody, but just moments ago, our Congresswoman rather, gave an impassionate speech about Black resistance at Columbus City Hall that we all need to hear. She reminded each and every person in chambers this morning at City Hall about what Black Columbus and what Black America is all about, and then managed to bring it back home before she ended and took her seat and told everybody that yes, we had a first, but it's important that we have a second and a third too. So here's Congresswoman Beatty's speech.
Good morning, and good morning. It is always good to be home. Thank you to my friend, colleague, president of City Council, Shannon Harden, and to all of the county City Council members, thank you for inviting me today to your program, Black Resistance, to honor, to commemorate, to study Black History Month. At a time when we acknowledge and salute the endless achievements and unparalleled legacies left behind by Black heroes and sheroes whose shoulders we stand on. And thank you for acknowledging our Greek sororities and fraternities. So I would be remiss if I didn't say I too bring greetings from Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Now my time begins, President Hart. But I want to first acknowledge and congratulate all of our 2023 Poindexter Award winners. Thank you for your service. You have made a profound impact in our community and embodied the legacy that the Reverend Dr. James Preston Poindexter, an abolitionist, an activist, a pioneer, and the first Black Columbus City Council member. So your work, awardees, not only makes a difference in the present, but it builds off of the legacy of our ancestors, and it sets the foundation for a future generation of leaders, like we just heard, as they lifted their voices. Let's give an applause for that choir. They are our children. So let's start with this Black history. Since 1976, the United States has designated February as Black History Month, celebrating and honoring the achievements of Black Americans. This year, the nation's theme is Black resistance. Black Americans have resisted historic and ongoing oppressions in all forms, especially in the racial terrorism of lynching, of racial pogroms, police killings, and since the arrival of us being on these shores. As the societal and political forces escalate to limit us access to the right to vote, access to the ballot, eliminated the teaching of Black history, and worked to push us back into the 1890s. but we can only rely on the capacity to resist. For Black Americans, the connection to resistance began in 1619 when enslaved Africans were brought here to the colonial Virginia. This resistance persisted and stretched through the Civil Wars, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, Black Lives Matter, and it continues today. You see, Black America has literally institutionalized resistance by building strong, supportive communities, Shannon, Black churches, Bishop, and Black universities, and yes, the Congressional Black Caucus. They have all been founded to ensure that African American success was not determined by a society that denied them their own rights. So as you bring a deeper focus to Black history in February, there are countless ways to discuss resistance. But my friends, let me tell you, it is unchallengeable and indisputable that part of history, Black history, is American history. And let us remember that and commensurate its role, because you see, Black history shaped the nation. Today's program will help us appreciate Black history and why we must resist to fight and unshackle the years of injustice and harness justice. This should not be tough. This should not be touchy, but my friends, it is still today. Black people have consistently pushed the United States to live up to the ideals of freedom, liberty, and justice for all. As the chair emeritus of the Congressional Black Caucus, I witnessed the power of Black resistance in communities across this country. It was with your support that I went to Congress and I was able to leverage my position as chairwoman of one of the most powerful and the largest caucus in the United States Congress. But let me just share with you, our diversity, our productivity, our historical appointments allowed me to shepherd in legislation, executive actions, meetings with the President of the United States, and ambassadors and prime ministers and presidents of more than 26 countries. This little Black girl from Ohio. We were able to pass law a few months ago and have the President of these United States sign Juneteenth as a national holiday, joining Martin Luther King Day. It was this Black lady that allowed us to give to President Biden the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. It was the Congressional Black Caucus that led for the country the George Floyd Justice Sean Walton in Police Act. It was us that allowed 6 Black chairmen of the nation's largest committees. This is worth a roll call. This is worth a roll call when you think of the richest and the wealthiest nation in this country, that a Black woman, Auntie Maxine Waters, chaired the Financial Services Committee. That a Black woman, Eddie Bernice Johnson from Texas, not only wrote the CHIPS Act of $56 billion. She was the chair of science and technology. And let's go to the brothers Larry Price. You see, it was a Black man over education and labor, Bobby Scott, an attorney. It was a Black man that was over Homeland Security and chaired the January 6th Commission, Benny Thompson from Mississippi. You see, it was a Black man for resistance. When we talked about agriculture, you think Black folks don't know about rural America and farming, but from Atlanta, Georgia, David Scott chaired agriculture. Let me wrap it up with foreign affairs. Have you ever heard that a Black man, an attorney from New York, Greg Meeks, chair of foreign affairs. You see, he took me to Sierra Leone. He took me to Tanzania. He took me to Liberia and the Ivory Coast. This little black girl from Columbus, Ohio. You want to talk about black resistance? Black resistance has captured America's attention to organizations in corporate America across this nation, reflecting on some of the things that we know in the past has been abusive to us. But you see, we are now historicizing it. You see, we are living indeed in a time of an inflection point in this nation's history. But my friends, old battles have become new again. Old battles have become new again. You see, on the first day of Black History Month, the College Board announced significant changes in its advancement placement of African American studies, Nana. You see, they said that we were no longer relevant and we were not going to allow our children, black, white, or brown, Lord asked, to have Black history, which we know is American history. Governor of Florida took it up on himself to say that he was going to remove books that dealt with people who looked like me, people who looked like the children who sang Lift Up Our Voices this morning. Columbus, Ohio. That's just wrong. That's just wrong. We know that diversity has captured the nation's attention. We know corporate America waves its flags of diversity and promotes its diversity managers. We know that they put more than $60 billion out there for George Floyd justice and policing. But where are the results? Where are the results? Where are the results? We know that people of color constitute 40% of the United States population, remain frustrating and unrepresented in business, holding only 16% of the board seats on Fortune 500 companies. Let me just tell you, there are only 4 of them. And let me just tell you how bad and wrong this is, Janet Jackson. You see, it's bad because I can name all 4 of them. It's even worse because I know all 4 of them. Black America resistance is why we are here today. And I thank you, City Council, for this. Thank you, Columbus, Ohio. Thank you, Columbus, Ohio, for giving us stories to tell. The stories of a freed slave, Matilda Gales, who lived to be 117 years old. And she was perhaps the oldest person in the United States in 1906. Stories of Salesville Sluggers, our Black-owned baseball team. Stories of Burnside Heights, where the residents built their homes with the bricks that were originally used for Broad Street. Oh, Black resistance. So let me just tell you, the Black community on the Near East Side, Bishop Washington, the historic Black community, the artist Amina Robinson, who gave us Along Water Street series. Black Americans were the texture and the fiber of Columbus, the cloth of culture, the home of jazz singer Nancy Wilson, poet and activist Anna Bishop, who called the Blackberry Patch home. The Beatty family's Novelty Food Bar in Mamie Moore Park and Carl Brown Shopping Center and Jenkins Towers in Poindexter Village. Yet, Black history is more than just talking about the past. It's about learning from our past and charting a new path forward. To pick up their baton and carry it, Shayla, to carry it forward, to confront the systemic racism, the discrimination, and the barriers that we still fight through. So let me bring this to a closure by saying, we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward because we can go from a Dr. James Poindexter to a Bishop Donna Washington. We can go from a Reverend Dr. Leon Troy to a Dr. Keith Troy. We can go from a Justice Robert Duncan to a Justice Yvette McGee Brown. We can go from a Dr. Billy Hicks to a Dr. BJ and Shari Hicks. We can go from a Urban League Director, Nimron Allen, to a Stephanie Hightower. We can go from an attorney, Otto Beatty Jr., to Sean Walton. We can go from an Honorable Janet Jackson to an Honorable Lori Beatty Buck. We can go from an Executive Leadership Council, Judy Barker, to an Executive Leadership Council, Karen Morrison. We can go from an NAACP, Mamie Moore Beatty, to Nana Watson. We can go from a Lucy McBath to a Melissa Thomas St. Clair. We can go from a Bobby Duncan to a Algernon Marbley. You see, we can go from a Amina Robinson to a Black Lives Matter art. You see, we can go from a Chief James Jackson to a Chief Elaine Bryant. You see, we can go from a Toni Morrison to a Will Haywood. You see, we can go from a Nancy Wilson to an Amra Nico. You see, we can go from a Jeanette Bradley to a CEO, Charles Hillsman. You see, we can go from a mayor, Carl Stokes, to a mayor, Michael B. Coleman. And yes, we can go from a mayor, Michael B. Coleman, to a Shannon Hardin. You see, Black resistance, Black resistance. And let me close by saying, I stand here in this magical moment as a sister who earned her way with Black resistance. But I say thank you to you. Thank you to you because you sent me to Congress. And I understand Black resistance. I understand that when our children don't have broadband, that I needed to stand up and vote for the infrastructure bill. And it was this Black woman, because of Black resistance, that stood the test of time and brought our people together to pass a $1.2 trillion bill. It is because of your sending me to Congress that we had an inflation reduction bill. Now, what you need to remember about it, Black people die of diabetes, and we put a cap on insulin. What you need to realize that our Black senior citizens can't always afford their medical prescriptions, so we lowered the cost. You see, sending me to Washington gave us the CHIPS bill, $56 billion. And I'm just saying 20 billion came to the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. I'm just saying that lastly, on this day of Black history and Black resistance, just 3 days ago, I entered into the United States Congress a bill that says Black history is American history. I'm just saying that we're going to call on the American Board of Educations across this country and tell them why is it not in the academic academies for Black history to be included in the competitive grants that go to teachers across this nation who teach American history and civics? We're going to stand up. If you want to know what Black resistance is, it's about saying Black history is American history. And Shayla, I approve your message, but more importantly, I'm Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, and I approve this message. God bless you, Black resistance, Columbus, Ohio. Love ya.
And that was Congresswoman Joyce Beatty right there, giving the keynote address at today's Black History Celebration and Poindexter Awards ceremony. I told you when we first started that Congresswoman Beatty brought the house down, and I kind of feel bad for everybody who had to follow after her. I know Columbus City Council member Nick Bankston had to follow her, along with the MC of the hour, Andrew Kinsley. I'm sorry, Andrew Kinsey, the 10 TV anchor, evening anchor there. He was the MC for tonight, and oh my God, she brought it down. She said, Black resistance. If you could title that speech, if that's all you can remember is Black resistance. And that actually was the theme for today's event as well. They picked a phenomenal keynote address. That's one thing our Congresswoman knows how to do. I may not agree with all of our elected officials on everything, but what I can tell you is a lot of our elected officials, they know how to bring down the House, and Congresswoman Beatty did it in so many ways, more than one. I love the ending of her speech where she tied it in from one historical local Black person to the award winners and the award recipients of the James Poindexter Awards. It was completely phenomenal. So before we sign off tonight here, because I hear them playing the music right now, I'm going to congratulate all of the awardees and the award recipients. I want to congratulate former judge and city attorney Janet Jackson, Judge Aragon Marby, attorney Sean L. Walton, Murder Columbus children, Melissa Thomas St. Clair, and the RNAACP president, Nana Watson, who accepted the award on behalf of the Columbus branch of RNAACP. So to all of you out there, we'll be back later today with more news, and we are even going to bring to you some of the speeches from the award recipients later this evening in our evening broadcast. But we just had to bring you that because as the father of soul himself, James Brown, as you're hearing right now saying, "Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud." Well, our Congresswoman Joyce Beatty did that. Before we go, everybody, I want to remind you that you can become a member of the Unbossed Fan Club by heading on over to our website at www.unbossed.live or heading over to Cash App. That's cash.app/$ Unbossed Fan Club, or PayPal. That's paypal.me/Unbossed Fan Club, and Venmo. That's venmo.com/Unbossed Fan Club. We'll see you back here tonight on Nightly News.